All right, guys, it is finally the time. It is ring night. It is Celtics, Knicks, and to get us set up here for a big night, we bring in the big guns. We got our guy, long overdue to be on the podcast here, Alex Trataros of Knicks Fan TV. Alex, thanks for being here, man.
Well, Greg, I appreciate you guys for having me on, man. I'm looking forward to ring night. I wish I could have been there. I was looking at ticket prices, and
They're
then
a
my
little steep.
wallet said, I was like, whoa. I was like all the way up in the nosebleeds. This is way too expensive for my pocket. My wallet decided to hop out of my pocket, run away, said, don't even touch me, man. This is too crazy. So I'll be going to New York, doing my own thing, celebrating with the Knicks fans as we watch the New York Knicks up in Beantown face the Boston Celtics. But it should be a good one, man. The whole new Knicks team. And we're going to take on the reigning champs because this is what everyone wanted last postseason in the ECF.
That's
we're
true,
excited for it, man.
I got one. I want to start with the hard hitting questions, though, Alex. Mikal Bridges jump shot. It was trending yesterday. What the heck?
I knew you weren't going to wait for this. I knew that was going to be the absolute first thing that you went to.
Shit looks broken. There's a video of Ant Edwards, with Mikal at the free throw line where Ant's like, he changed his shot, man. He changed his shot. And then 0 for 10 in his last game from 3. Shot does not look confident. Somebody asked him about it, and he ended up saying that he's been tinkering with it since college. He was tweaking it in the offseason. He said he tweaked it every single year. And, with Jason Tatum having just gone through the shot tweaking last year, it's not a fun experience. And this is the first year of Mikal in New York. Obviously, he was with Brooklyn before, but with the Knicks. So how are we feeling about Mikal Bridges' jump shot? Then we can get into Cat and all that stuff.
I like how you decided to go with this, Greg. Because we had a whole big thing on post game talking about the jump shot. We're like, is it different? Like, what's going on with it? And then shout out to James Edwards, new beat reporter for the New York Knicks, coming over through the Athletic. He used to cover the Pistons out there.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. And so he asked the question, and Bridges, he said he's, as you said, Greg, he's been tweaking his shot since he's left college. He's looking to find that college jumper. And I'm like, why? Like, you shot 38%. You're damn near close to a 40% shooter. If it's going in, why are we changing? What are we looking for? Like, are we looking for Nirvana? Like, Nirvana is very hard to find at this point. But to me, like, he went 2-19 for this preseason between all the games he's played. He played 4 games. He's 2-19. That's horrendous if you're thinking about, we're going to have a great 3-point shooting team. But like, when you work on a shot and like you're doing it off season, doing the regular season, I just see it throwing a little bit of a hiccup to start it off. And like, I know we're talking like from the Knicks perspective, right? The fan base, you hear a lot of talking heads, analysts say, hey, this could be like a top 5 offensive team. But if he's not going to have that jumper falling from the get-go, it's going to be pretty rough for the start because you can rely on OG, Cat. We know we can get from Cat, Brunson, and then when you have Bridges out there, considering you have Josh Hart, he's supposed to be that other weapon to really open up the floor for Brunson to go attack. So I'm a little concerned, not overly concerned. I'm going to give it like 10 to 20 games to really see like what's going on here, but it is broken. It is not even close to what he was doing in college. Like, if you look at that thing, it looks like a catapult at this point. Like, when he did, like, there's a video floating around. Shout out to the guys over at Knicks Film School. I think it's DJ who posted it. You look at the jump shot back in college, and you're like, oh, okay, that looks like perfect form, right in front of his forehead. Like, it goes right in. This thing, man, is going way behind his head. I'm like, you can't even see the ball. Like, and he's just like throwing it up there. I'm like, this, like, it's not like Sean Marion type levels of jump shot craziness. I'm like, but still, I don't like it.
Where did the Knicks do their training camp? Because that's where I first saw it a couple weeks ago, and I was like, maybe my eyes are deceiving me. Has Mikal Bridges always had this unorthodox, strange jump shot that I just haven't noticed? Because, like, I mean, I've watched Mikal Bridges, but I'm not locked in day to day when he's with the Suns, when he's with the Nets, and so I was like, maybe I just haven't fully assessed his jump shot. Now it's everywhere. I'm like, okay, I wasn't crazy when I saw this at training camp. There was a shot of him, and he looked like. Have you guys seen like that, and this actually, I mean, this goes in all the time. It's that like Japanese robot that like Lethal Shooter has like gone up against. It's like a little bit like that was what my first thought was. Yeah, and I was like, I don't remember this from Mikal Bridges. So having all of this come out makes me feel great that I'm not crazy for thinking this like 2 weeks ago when I first saw it.
Yeah, but and shout out to who was the reporter that asked the question again?
James Edwards.
That's a tough question to get asked in the preseason, and it's pretty cool that Mikal Bridges actually answered it the way that he did, being very transparent, because that's all you really want, right, from your players, is that they're being transparent with the media and that they're being authentic. And I'm going to use that as a transition to talk about Karl Anthony Towns, the king of inauthenticity. So, where are we feeling about Karl Anthony Towns right now in New York? Is it going to work? And as for me, I was scared of the Knicks coming into this season. I loved the team that you guys had last year. I loved DiVincenzo. I thought Randall getting back into the mold was going to be an interesting piece there. You had depth, you had shooting, you had everything. Now you have Cat. How do you feel?
I was looking forward to the Randall revenge story because I felt like January, even before January, like he was playing some of his best basketball as a Knick that he ever did. But to answer the question about Cat, I'm like, I think like I am skeptical about the trade. I'm not the biggest Cat fan like out there. Like I think if you listen to me anywhere, I never wanted Karl Anthony Towns on the Knicks. Granted, I knew the situation of like what we were talking about, like, oh, like a Cat for Randall. If you have like Isaiah Hartenstein, Mitchell Robinson, like why do we need to add that? Doesn't really make sense. Like the team that's already constructed is good as is. Now, granted, we lost Isaiah Hartenstein. You talk about Mitchell Robinson, who's probably not going to be back until January. He's not going to be back this year at all. And so when you look at the center position, I understand why they did it. I always knew that it would have to be Randall going out for Cat. The part that I think adds is not necessarily just losing Dante. Like I know everyone's like, oh, Dante's the real reason why this trade's much more like I guess greater than what like he's the real piece that we lost, not Julius. I disagree with that. It's the compound nature of losing both of them. You're talking about two guys who are just very aggressive, two guys who are, just have that like I don't give a fuck mentality. I don't know if I can swear on this show, but it's like that's like so like that's really like what you're missing, and that was just kind of the ethos of the New York Knicks is that you have guys who are just like a bunch of hounds going out there who were ready to like beat you with like metal bats who didn't really care, and now it's just kind of like changed the entire like mold of what this team looks like. Even with Bridges, like Bridges doesn't really have that same like I guess like demeanor as like Dante would. Like Dante, even when you see that preseason game between the Knicks, like this dude is getting all revved up for a preseason game. Like Bridges out there just doing his thing. Cat, he'll go do his thing. Like we know what he's been doing for like the 8-9 years out in Minnesota. Like he's a good elite offensive talent. But I think like when you lose guys like that who created like that, I'm gonna fight every single night. Like doesn't matter what's happening, shot falling, I'll be damned. Somehow I'm gonna figure out a way to win. Now, don't get me wrong, with Cat, with Bridges, like I said earlier in the show, I think this is going to be a top 5 offense when everything's clicking. But it's to me getting Cat, you're trading a guy who like has a questionable postseason record with another guy who had a questionable postseason record. And I know the numbers are going to look great, like way better. They look way better for Cat than they do for Julius. I would say like Julius first year, it was just Julius. We're talking about him having like Elfrid Payton, Derrick Rose on his last leg, RJ Barrett, like a lot of limited players playing with him the first time they made the playoffs. And, his first time in the postseason, like most guys, like they're not just ready for it. They're not ready for that moment. And then you talk about him being injured with the ankle. And so it's like, he's not going to have great, like a great postseason run. But like with Cat, like I think like Randall for Cat, it's even. Not the biggest fan of it because I don't think mentally is where all the questions of my concerns are. Like, I don't look at Cat being soft for like how he acts. I think of him being soft as when the limelight is on you and we're looking for that big moment. Are you not going to back down somebody from the 3-point line and then turn the ball over? Are you not going to get in foul trouble? Are you not going to get in your own way and be like, this is my moment to shine and I'm going to try to force every post shot that there is, or like just be too trigger happy? That's the stuff that, you watch someone like Jalen Brunson, cool, calm, collected throughout every single moment that he does. And so like Brunson, like that's the guy I'm going to trust. But like with Cat, because it's just in flux right now, is he your number 2 option? Is he your number 3 option with Bridges because of how this team's now currently constructed? And if he's your 2 option, like I'm looking for a lot from the second option, because if they're going to be guarding Brunson, like then it's like, then Cat's got to go out there and produce as well.
I gotta jump in on the baseball bat comment, right? Because I love that. That's what was scary about the Knicks last year, is that everybody on their team was a hound, as you said, or like release the hounds. If you put a baseball bat and anybody on that roster from last year's hands, they know like who we going to fuck up, like where are we going right now,
whose car we taking?
Yeah, whose car we taking? With Cat, you give him a baseball bat, he starts like freaking doing some Dick Van Dyke dancing around, doesn't know what he's doing with it, like using it as a walking cane. Cat doesn't really get it. And then with Cat, you know, I didn't love the Netflix Starting Five documentary. Obviously, it was like a very LeBron heavy infomercial. But there was one thing Anthony Edwards said to Cat at one point where Cat was complaining about the referees, and Ant just looks at him and he's like, "You can't face guard blockout, man. Like, you know that. You can't, like," and those are the things with Cat. It's like, dude, what is up with your mental, man? Where's your focus? Do you even understand what's going on? Or are you just constantly looking for excuses? And the last thing that you can do in a market like New York, in a market like Boston, is look for excuses.
Yeah, absolutely. You're talking about like one of the major market cities. You can even go down to like Philadelphia. You can go out to LA. You can go out to Chicago. Like, we're talking about hardcore sports fans everywhere you go in those type of cities, and you can't sugarcoat it. Like, I got friends out here in Boston I'm playing basketball with, and Bulls fans, and they're like, "Yo, man, like," like you just even hear them just like, "Yeah, they're kind of soft, man. Like, we don't know what to expect. Like, they need to be better and this, that, and the third." But to getting back to Cat, man, it's like, that's my concern. It's like people, like what people complained about Julius is like Cat doesn't do too far from that. Like, the thing that Cat is that he is an elite offensive talent. Like, he could put the ball in the hoop at a high efficient level. And when you watch him during the regular season, it's fine. Like, hey, okay, like we can win like 50, 55, 60 games because guess what? He's going to do what he does best, which is shoot the ball. But when you get to the postseason, when things start to slow down and it really requires you to be a chess player, not a checkers player, that's where I'm like, I don't know what we're going to get. Like, that's my biggest concern. And you can tell me that with Julius, but that it's like at the end of the day, it's like, but where's the upgrade? Like, I always wanted to see Julius like for an upgrade. Like, if we're trading Julius, I want to know we're getting a clear cut upgrade. And that, like, I know from an execution standpoint, like we're gonna be Gucci. We're gonna be fine. We're like postseason, it's gonna be easy sailing now for Brunson. And the other thing I'll say that losing Julius that I think is kind of underrated is like, where's the other playmaker? I know Randall, like I said, he was having a hot start last year. I know the frustrating turnovers that you can watch. I know he's a frustrating player. I'm not the biggest Julius Randle fan. I get like, and this is what's funny is like fans like hear me like, "Oh, why do you think Randall's better than Cat?" It's like, Alex has always been around. I've never been a Randall like enthusiast from like any part, but it's like I can at least appreciate what he does that I know Cat can't do. And I would say Randall's a more well-rounded player. Defensively, they both got their hiccups. But like for a playmaking standpoint, it's like, okay, if Brunson needs a rest while he's on the floor, I know Randall can go try to create. Like you saw him like during January, 6, 7, 8 assists with OG as soon as he joined in. OG doesn't even understand the playbook like that yet. And yet he's still able to produce at a high level like that. And now I'm like, where do we get that? Now you're putting a lot of pressure on Brunson. And we've seen this recipe before with the Pacers prior to them getting Pascal Siakam, where it's like, okay, now it's all on the point guard to initiate, to create, and to figure out everyone in their spots. And for me, like, that's an exhausting process. Like, it's like, this isn't like, I know we could compare point guards to like quarterbacks, but this is not, it's not the same in this aspect. When you're running up and down, you're trying to get your own shot. You're trying to do like 20 million other things. And now you're telling him, hey, this is going to be all on you. And then he's got to take a break at some point. Like, he's not going to be out there for 48 minutes. I'm sure Tibbs would love that, but you know, he's only human. So like, who's coming in there and who's going to do that? Campaign's okay. You know, he's the guy I'd rather have on my team than watch it on the Sixers like last year, drilling like big critical threes. And I'm like, okay, fine. But like at the end of the day, like Campaign is a journeyman for a reason. You know, he hasn't been a starter for a reason. So it's like, there's just so many questions after the trade that it's like, it's on paper, it's great. And being a Jets fan, like who always wins the paper battle, I like, well, we're talking behind like like behind stage, like, oh, like, yeah, we got Devontae Adams, like, but we always went on paper. Like, I need to see it happen on the field first. And so for this team, because it's so brand new, I just need to see the product first. And I'm like, at this point, like, even when you make a trade like this, I'm looking ECF. Like, you don't make a trade like this, not thinking you go to the ECF, not thinking that you're not going to have championship aspirations. So now the front office pushed the chips in saying this is a championship contender team. Are there going to be tweaks along the way? Do I expect them to win year one? No, because most teams don't really win year one when you made such a massive overhaul, especially at the top of the food chain for your second and third option. But like, they better be damn near close. Like like fully healthy, this team, they better be damn near close because
and I think that's
all right, next year. Then you got to be like, all right.
That's part of the key, right? Is I think theoretically, Cat hires your ceiling, right? That's
Yeah.
kind of the bet that they're making here, is that it hires the ceiling. And my favorite part about this trade is that, just like you were saying a minute ago, you're not really a big Randall guy. You're not a big Cat guy. Neither of us on this show are either of those guys either. But at different times when discussing this trade, it feels like you're now either stumping for one of the two, and no one really is a Randall guy or a Cat guy fully. And it's just this really interesting trade of everyone, no one understanding who won the trade, who got better, and there's not a consensus feeling to it. And that rarely happens, I feel like, in the NBA. Usually there's a pretty strong lean one way or the other, or it's a rebuilding team versus a team going for it, and it's kind of clear what the paths are. With both of these, it's a little bit murky. And I think, you mentioned DiVincenzo is getting a lot of shine as like, man, I can't believe he's gone. But it's like Randall's a really big part of this too. Like, let's not misunderstand that. And it's also kind of that 2-for-1 aspect, and that speaks to Cat's talent. But it is still 2-for-1. And when I look at the Knicks, one of the things that you guys are all in on, which I do think, when you're looking at to what you just said about Eastern Conference Finals, NBA championship, you need that high end depth, as opposed to regular season depth is obviously necessary to get through an 82 game schedule. But when you're looking at an actual championship, you need that high end depth. Those teams that can name 11, 12 people, cool. That's great. Regular season, that's going to help you a lot. But out of those last 6 to 12 guys, can any of them play in the Eastern Conference Finals in games 6 and 7? Can they play in the NBA Finals? And usually the answer to those questions is no. We lived through that as Celtics fans with those Brad Stevens teams. Brad Stevens is an amazing coach. We had a lot of rosters that had a lot of really fun players. But when it got down to the final 4 teams, the talent wasn't going to be there for it. There just wasn't that depth.
Will, I mean, even last year, when we were thinking about a game 7, I was advocating for the Celtics to go all in and go get an Alex Caruso, because I was like, I don't know that Sam Hauser or Peyton Pritchard can play in a game 7. Then that was one of the big conversations we were having internally with the Celtics. So with the Knicks, I'll let you finish your question here, but I look at the like 6 through 9 on that team. The only guy that I currently trust right now to play in a big game is Deuce McBride.
Right. So that's kind of where I'm going here is I feel like the depth is now the question of this team. And if fully healthy, I think the high end depth is there for them to be exactly what you said, Alex, in that contention for those final 4. But even within those top 7, and listen, the Celtics have their own Kristaps Porzingis to worry about. But when you look at Cat, when you look at OG, and when you look at Mitchell Robinson, who's in the same boat as Kristaps to start the season, aka not available, like, you have 3 of your top 7 that have injury histories. And here's just a quick stat that I've been waiting to drop here. Since 2019-20, games played, Kristaps Porzingis 273, Karl Anthony Towns 250. So they're right in that same boat as far as what their availability has been over the last couple of years. So talk to us a little bit about how you're feeling about both the high end depth and the injury concerns that are there. And then to Greg's point, once you get beyond Deuce, and let's remove Mitchell Robinson from that part of it, because we know he's out until at least January, like, what does that look like for a Tibbs team that Tibbs, like you said, Tibbs will run these guys into the ground, and that's not a recipe to be, holding up a trophy in June.
Like, to answer the first question about the injury history, like, OG is obviously the one that scares me the most, just because. And when you look at the top 5, like, you could say this for anybody, like, if one of them goes, like, this whole team, like, it looks like it's bleak. It's not like last year where you're like, oh, we lost Randall, Dante. Now you go in there, you can go thrive. Mitchell Robinson goes down, we got Isaiah Hartenstein. We're fine. But like this year, if you lose any one of those top 5s, like, the whole aspiration of what you have, depending on the severity of the injury, it's up in question. So, like, I'm more so worried about OG, Mitch. Like, I want him back because that will just give more defensive versatility. Like, you could put Cat at the 4, have Mitch out there being a true rim protector, which Tibbs loves to have, especially in the drop coverage. So he's a concern. Cat, I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, I think those are like years where, like, I understand, like, that's great that you got those numbers, Will, like, and just point out, like, Cat missed more games than KP. But I also feel like when I watch Cat and, like, him missing games, like, some of that's kind of rest. Some of that's, like, I know there was like 1 year where he only played like 20 games. Like, he really had, I forget what injury that was, but he's been more of an Iron Man in his career than he has been like a guy that's known to be injury prone. So I'm like,
first 4 years, he was basically 82. I think I have it right here. He was, let's see, the first 4 years, he was 82, 82, 77. It's been the last 5 where it gets in turn. But you're right. The first 4 years, he was an absolute Iron Man.
Yeah, and I think, like, the position that he's going to play now, he's not going to need to be like, so like aggressive, like overextended in that regard of like what he needs to do, that I think he should be fine. I'm not too concerned about him as like being injury prone. I don't know why. Like people have been saying like, Alex, aren't you concerned? Like I know one of those years in the more recent years, it was during the abbreviated season during the COVID season where 50 games, like if you talk about 50 out of 72, that's essentially like 60 out of like 82, right? So I'm like, that's good enough for me. So it's more so that he missed a chunk of like, I forget which it was, like 2-3 years ago, where he only played like 20 some odd games. That's like the biggest thing on his resume. Right. But I'm not really that concerned about Cat and his injury history. Will he miss some time? Sure. I expect all these guys to miss a little bit of time. It's an 82 game regular season. The way that these guys play now, like it's just going to happen at some point. So like injury wise, like it's really Mitch and it's OG that's like the two question marks, because Mitch could come back and the next thing you know, he's out again. That happened before. That happened like first time the Knicks made the playoff with Julius. Like he came back, looked awesome, done. Like done for the regular season. I was like, wow, we literally got
Mitchell
like
Robinson is literally, by the way, the Rob Williams of
the
Knicks. And like, we've made
1000%.
that comparison, and like this was going to be our lives if we didn't put Rob in that Drew Holiday trade. That was going to be our lives for the foreseeable future. Is a 5 to 10 game stretch where it looks great, then he gets hurt, and Rob just constantly landed in a way in which I thought he was hurt almost every single time. And so it was, I mean, as much as we love Rob, we're huge Rob Williams fans. Lob Williams was what we used to call him. Like, I'm kind of glad we don't have to live with that anymore. And unfortunately, he hasn't been healthy at all since he's been in Portland.
Yeah, we got the blockness monster out here for Mitchell Robinson. Like, no, they're exactly carbon copies, like 1000%. I mean, that's why the Knicks were looking to trade. It was really Julius and Mitch they were trying to get for Cat. And it's like for Timberwolves, like we got Gobert, we got Naz Reid.
It's kind of a hilarious offer. It's kind of a hilarious offer to keep making to them, like supposedly the way that's been reported. It's like, well, what about now? It's like, dude, do you not see how many big men we have out here? Like, what are we doing with Mitchell Robinson?
You have 3 big men. How about 4? How does that sound to you? Yeah, Mitch Robinson. I love him, man. I think he's a great player when he's on the court. Offensive rebounding machine. He's a problem for the Celtics just with his size and his physicality. To me, I've always thought of him as like Andrew Bynum back in the day for the Lakers, right? Like if they could just get Andrew Bynum healthy for one season, what could happen? That's kind of how I see Mitch Robinson, where
they won a championship is what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if he can stay healthy, the Knicks scare me a little bit more, but I just don't trust it, man.
And the thing is, like with Mitch, like the one season that he had he was fully healthy was that year where it was a whole Donovan Mitchell trade, and you see what he did. He like between him, Isaiah Hartenstein, they took down the Twin Towers out in Cleveland. So that's what he could do when he's healthy. And you even see like he had solid moments against Joel Embiid. Granted, Joel Embiid, we talk about him being injured as well, playing on like one knee, but he can help, man. But it's really just OG and Mitch that's my biggest concern. And now for what was the second question? The second question, like the depth of like after Deuce McBride.
Once you get past Deuce, like what does that look like for you guys?
I like Precious. I think Precious could give you some valuable minutes coming off the bench as a big man. Jericho Sims has not looked great. Man, that guy just consistently looks lost on the defensive end, and for like what he needs to be for Tom Thibodeau, it's like I don't see him getting a lot of serious burn. You're talking about Cam Payne, which is all right. Cam could be a spark plug here and there at some point. And then you got who is it? You got I like Tyler Kolek, Hukporti, Dottie. I mean, those 3 rookies right there. Those are the guys that you're thinking about for the future, how they could be impactful. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe you're not looking in like as a realistic like perspective for like a bunch of new guys coming together to win a championship is very hard. But if you say, hey, give a full years for these 3 rookies to get into an NBA program, maybe those guys are the contributing factors to a next year, like a true title contention where you're like, all right, we got the real depth right now. Cause Hukporti looks solid, man, when he's out there. Guy is like very active on the defensive end, active with his hands, knows his positioning very well, looking to be an enforcer when he's starting to dunk and just like make his presence known, protecting the rim. Tyler Kolek, man, that man is like a savant when it comes to passing the ball. I love his game. He is like the true, like it is like almost like reminiscent of John Stockton to like how calm and poised he is when he's looking for his teammates out there. It's like, bro, you only been through a summer league and you're doing preseason now, but yet you're finding guys like there's no problem. So like, but that's like being 3 to 4 years at Marquette does for you, right? Like growing.
Is he going to get run opening night?
No, he's probably going to be somebody that enters the rotation later on during the season. I can see him replacing campaign. Like if you need another facilitator, that's where I'm like,
Right.
you're talking about needing another facilitator, Brunson, maybe another year. You say, all right, Brunson's out. This guy could keep us going and moving forward. And then with Dadier, just solid wing, like offensively. Got to work on the defensive side of the ball, but offensively he's fine. But that's another guy you just need that needs time to grow. So the depth on this team, I think it's fine, like for a regular season, but those guys aren't going to be serious contributors in a postseason run. I mean, Tibbs likes to run an 8-man rotation anyway. So you're talking about the starting 5 that you got right now. It'll be Mitch when he gets back, and if he's fully healthy, it's going to be Deuce McBride. So you got 7 right there, and I think it's precious. I think that's what you're running with. And then Cam, like I think Cam's going to be in there, but it's like it's really good between the big men of like who's getting like that, I guess 8.5 slot, right? So that's the rotation moving forward. I think it's fine. I mean, you guys know, I mean, I'm going to throw it right back to you. You guys were talking about, your depth going into the postseason. Greg, you mentioned needing like Alex Caruso, but you guys see at the end, like your depth was pretty fine. Like you just gave those guys more extended run throughout the regular season. You saw how they could be solid contributors.
Yeah, I mean, how do you, when you look at the Celtics, obviously they pretty much ran it back. They lost to O'Shea Brissett. The news just dropped yesterday that we're not signing Lonnie Walker, right?
Oh no, Lonnie Walker. I'm guys. I'm in your guys' hometown, so like I had to hear about this every single day about Lonnie Walker.
Greg's got some feelings about this.
I thought we should have signed him, man. I thought he would have been the 9th man on this team, but it was a bet on Jordan Walsh, in my opinion. I think they're hoping Jordan Walsh can come in and play some spot minutes in the O'Shea Brissett role. But when you look at last year's Knicks against the Celtics, obviously we all wanted that. I think it would have been really fun to see in the playoffs versus this year's Knicks against the Celtics. You, in the offseason, seemingly built the team to stop the Celtics. That was the whole point of getting OG and Mikal Bridges, right? Josh Hart is another guy. You can switch 3 of your 5 starters, right? Can switch onto the Jays, and Derek White and Drew Holiday, all that. Cat is probably, I mean, he's someone the Celtics are going to target. We're going to target Jalen Brunson. But now, how do you see this year's Knicks matching up against the Celtics? Do you feel more confident or less confident compared to last year?
I feel confident. I feel like I said, man, I think it's going to be a top 5 offensive team. I think they're going to push each other in that regard. I think defensively is where I have my questions. You can only guard so much. You can only do so well of a perimeter job unless like you have a real anchor in the back. And that's where I'm like, is Cat going to be that solid, like front court, defensive, like provider that we need? So that's where I just need to see it happen. And it's a great test. Like this is a great test for the Knicks. Like game 1, you're going against the reigning champs. They got an edge. Look, everyone's saying that, hey, they had a cakewalk of a postseason run last year. They're, people are questioning, is this a valid ring? Which I think is like a little crazy. Every single time do we like question how valid is the ring? I'm like, guys, they can only do, like, you can't like do anything except play the people who are in front of you. So like they won it. All right. So regardless of how
they lost 3 games in the postseason.
Yeah. Yeah. So like they're real.
And we didn't have our starting center for 85% of it.
And the other thing is like, you just look at the numbers, you look at the Van stats, like this is the best starting 5 that's like when they're fully healthy, that's on the court. So I know KP's not going to be there. I would have liked to have seen that because that's going to be the real, like the whole point you get Cat is to match what KP does, because that was the whole issue last season when the Knicks ever faced the Celtics. You drew Mitchell Robinson out from the paint because he had to guard KP. And then it's just a wide open lane for Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White, Drew Holiday. And it's like that type of stuff is why like they went with the Cat direction, because it was okay, let's match fire with fire.
Well, last year, that's what we were saying on this spot all the time, Alex, is that Isaiah Hartenstein was so important to your team last year because Mitchell Robinson could not be on the court when Kristaps Porzingis was on the court. He looked lost.
Every time Hartenstein came in, the game flipped. The game flipped, and the Knicks made it a lot closer every single time Hartenstein was out there.
So, like, for me, if I'm the Knicks, and we were texting one of our really good friends down here in Austin, I think he thinks I'm trolling, Will, when I'm like asking all these questions about the Knicks. But like, I really think you guys last year with Hartenstein there and Randall and DiVincenzo, that was the team that I thought was built to beat the Celtics. And this year, if I'm a Knicks fan, I'd be furious. I actually, although I'm a huge Celtics fan, and obviously we have like this inherent hatred of all New York sports, I secretly was like rooting for the Knicks last year. They were so much fun to watch, man.
Yeah, you
and
tried to
year,
hide it, but it wasn't hidden very well on the show.
Yeah, no. I really liked watching the Knicks last year. And this because I'm just a basketball fan. At the end of the day, I'm a basketball fan. And this year, I'm just like, I don't get it with this team, man. I don't think it's gonna work.
There's just more questions. That's the biggest thing. I think that's the biggest difference between last year and this year is originally you had the Nova Knicks. We've got family. You know, it's basically a Fast and the Furious movie. It's set in New York. Like we've got everything together. You know, and now all of a sudden now it's like when you really step back and look at it, like right, like OG's been here a half year. Yeah, Bridges played with Josh Hart and Brunson in college, but he's never played with Deuce. He's never played with Cat. He's never played like there's now all of a sudden, and even Josh Hart had a quote the other day where he's like, "I'm not sure. Should I be starting? Should I be coming off the bench?" Like
he said,
like,
"I'm lost."
Yeah, he said, "I'm lost." And so now it's just like the Knicks, who I think had a very healthy respect and even fear from Celtics fans of like, all right, this is the team. Like we said, they got the dogs. They're not afraid, and they've got a closer in Jalen Brunson. They've got at least the shapings of a recipe to beat the Celtics. Now it's like I see the vision. I understand why they went and did what they did, but there's just a lot of questions that I think that need to be answered. And opening night's going to be, the first part of seeing what those answers look like.
For sure. And like, I would say like this, like it's going to be a really talented Knicks team. Like I'm not going to downplay that. It's still going to be close in my opinion, like the competition between these two teams. But like, yeah, there's a lot of questions. And the one thing I always go back to is like, when I look at like what we had last year, it's like, you just knew like the whole thing about the Knicks was like consistency. Like the roster was like so consistent. And so to your guys' point, like what we've been talking about, it's like with all these new faces, it's like, how's it all going to play out? And I don't see like game one is going to be a good test to see what they got to work on from a Knicks perspective. But then it's like moving forward, like I know that it's not going to be a cohesive, like seamless offensive production that we're going to get from this team yet. I know that there's still stuff
for
that they
you
got to
guys,
work out.
It's like more if you had brought back the same team, I think game one against the Celtics would have been like a true measuring
For
stick
sure.
to see where both teams are at. And now you're just like waiting until the playoffs, basically, right? For the Knicks. Like, can we develop the cohesiveness, to use your word, that we had last year in the playoffs? Because that's what you guys were really betting on if you didn't make the trade, was the continuity, was the vibes, right? That was a team that was kind of going all in on vibes. And now it's just an experiment for the whole year to see what works and what doesn't work. And can you be ready for the playoffs? And that, I think that's the part that frustrates me, just like as a fan. If I were a Knicks fan, I'd just be so upset that we didn't at least give it a shot. Like we didn't get to see Randall in the playoffs with that squad. We didn't.
But here's
get
the thing,
to
Greg.
see,
They kind of had to make that move at that time because of all the CBA nonsense. Like they had to sign 4 guys to $1 over the minimum to make the trade legal, which shout out to the Knicks. And I'm sure the NBA is furious because that's the new blueprint of like when to look for major trades to happen, is when rosters can have 5-6 extra players that you can sign to $1 over. So in theory, I do agree with you, Greg, but I think timing wise, as like more has come out, it was kind of now or never. And if Cat's the guy, then you can agree and disagree with Cat being the guy.
They had to do it for a fact.
And that's where
I hate this new landscape where we have to talk about the cap like we're mathematicians, dude. Like I cannot stand it.
I mean, dude, from a Celtics perspective, I was thinking about this the other day, like, and we've been it's been looming over a lot of our conversations, but whether or not the Celtics go back to back, there's like a 90% chance this team has to be broken up no matter what. Like it's like 90%. Like even if they win, there's a good chance that happens.
Enjoy the last year of Kristaps Porzingis, Boston fans, because he's
this is likely this is likely the end here. So it's just a whole new world that we're living in. But Alex, we'll get you out of here with this, man. Give me your thoughts. What happens opening night? This is gonna run probably Sunday night, Monday morning. So what's gonna happen Tuesday night between the Celtics and the Knicks? And then what's your prediction for the Knicks for this upcoming season?
I would just add this. I feel like for just Greg, for like when we can actually see these teams actually like give them like the best product of what it could potentially be in the playoffs. I'm looking at the schedule. Obviously, the Knicks and Celtics play 4 times every year just because they're divisional opponents. Sunday, was it Sunday, February 23rd,
My
2025?
birthday.
There you go.
There
Oh,
you go.
well, happy early birthday to you. That's the time on your birthday when they'll play game. That'll be the third time they're facing each other. It'll be the middle of the regular season. At that point, the Knicks should be in rhythm of what they should be looking like.
Both Mitchell Robinson and KP on track. Who knows, but on track that both of them should be available and ramped up by that time as well.
Right. And so that is probably the best we're going to see of a matchup between the two teams. That game is going to be in Boston, so I'm going to try to make it to that one. Maybe we all meet up and hang out. Who knows?
Hey, cool. There you go. A little birthday present for Greg. We can make that happen.
So that is the time I'm expecting both teams to really give a preview of what it could be in the postseason. Game 1 of the regular season. Look, man, I'm going to still be my Knicks home. I'm going to go with the Knicks winning this game.
Do it. Let's go.
Look, man, I know if I came on here like, oh, bow down to the Celtics, people will be like, what is happening here? What is going on? So I'm going to take the Knicks game the win. It's going to be an edged out win. It's going to be a grueling battle. All right,
classic,
we're going to ruin
New
Rig
York
Night.
False bravado right there.
There we go. We're going to ruin Rig Night for you, okay? You're going to hang banner, whatever number that is coming down, all right? And we're going to be like,
Jalen Brunson late in the game. I feel like that's the recipe Knicks fans want more than anything.
Oh, JB having the rock in his hand. Is it a 3? Nah, it'll probably be somewhere like turnaround baseline or in the paint, just getting that 2 points that we need. That's what's going to happen. And then for the regular season, man, I think this team's going to get over 54 wins this year. I think they're going to be up there. I guess I would say there's 2 things, because I know there's a lot of talk. Could they have the best record in basketball? There's 2 things I'm looking at. How angry are the Boston Celtics where they want to just run it back and prove because not only did they win the championship, but then you got to talk about the disrespect that both as the Jays had this offseason, where it's like Tatum not getting burned during the Olympics, Jaylen Brown feeling like, he's not getting the respect that he deserves this offseason as well. And then on top of that, I'm looking at OKC Thunder. How good are they going to be? I know they don't have Isaiah Hartenstein to start off the season, but it's that's another team where I think they're going to take a big leap this year. And based on how those 2 teams feel like they want to move throughout the regular season, is really going to determine where the Knicks and in the entire overall NBA, I feel like they could be top 3 with their record this year. Because look at even the Sixers right now, guys. We can just both teams can just demolish the Sixers easily because
common enemy.
We talk about injury prone. We talk about guys who are going to miss
Alex,
games.
I have it on my notes in front of me. I was going to end with this. Do you want to take the floor here and just trash Embiid for a little bit, because I'm on a pretty high I'm just so out on everything Joel Embiid, and
Joel Embiid so
way
much.
more than it relates to anything with the Celtics. It has to do with that series last year against the Knicks. I'm still mad about that play on Mitchell Robinson and that he didn't get eviscerated for it more. I think, you said you're still out here playing hoops. Greg and I play hoops every Thursday night in our men's league. That's just you broke the code.
Never do
in my opinion, he broke the code, and you just don't do that's a fight. That's a full on brawl. If that happens in our men's league, if someone goes up, if one of our big guys goes up and he tries to pull it down because he's frustrated about a fucking foul call that he can get in the other end, that's some bullshit. I'm that. Nothing has made me I couldn't root during the Olympics. I wanted Embiid to fail, even though I'm rooting for Team USA. I couldn't root for Embiid. I just couldn't do it. I
some of the teams we play, that's a pop the trunk moment.
Yeah, 100%, dude. That's run. Let's get the fuck out of this gym. But if you want to take the floor here and just trash Embiid, have your moment, because we will just back you up.
What's crazy, man, is that it's for a guy who's supposed to be an MVP caliber candidate, how do you even do a Bush League move like that? He sucks for doing that, bro. And the fact that you have even Sixers fans out here just oh, what are we talking about? And then we even see on Twitter the comparison oh, how could they even grab Maxi's hand? How could Jalen Suggs grab Maxi's hand? That's a dirty play. I'm yo,
I just saw that this morning.
I was I'm and then shout out to my guy Blames on Twitter. He's oh, are we serious right now? This is what Mitchell Robinson got from Embiid during the postseason. And it's Sixers fans have to be the most delusional fan base possible, bro. Because the fact that you can even walk by and say, not even acknowledge the dirtiness of that play, where grabbing legs, and then you talk about why is Mitch out to start the season? Because Joel Embiid is a bum at this point who can't play the right way. All right. He can't play the right way. He gets frustrated. He breaks down the postseason. He's going to get owned by Boston, New York, whatever any team faces the Sixers. I feel bad for Maxey because he has to be next to the guy named Joel Embiid, who is now in my eyes, like I can't even look like as you said, like I can't like I used to like Embiid's game for like, all right, fine, whatever, physical. I love that stuff. But when you got to resort to that, when you got to resort to Bush League type stuff, I lose all respect to you. And it is a code, man. Like you don't just foul somebody for the sake of fouling somebody because you're foul. Like that happened in like one of the pickup games not too long ago. Guy pushed somebody in the air in the back. I'm like, everyone's like, yo, like what? Like everyone's just like stands up, like, what are you doing, bro? Like this is like no one's getting paid here. Like if you want that to not happen, play better defense. How about that? Play a better game where you're not looking like a fool on the other side. All right, that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do.
I got to give you credit for the self-edit, as you said. Joel Embiid is a bum. Yeah, I know you wanted to say a different word there because that's how I feel about Embiid, man. I would have used the other B word there. Like I just don't like the dude. I think as long as he's in Philly, they're not winning a championship. That's just like the vibes that I get from that team with him. He just doesn't have a championship mindset. Not a fan.
Dude,
Guys,
it's like
listen, I gotta be honest.
It's like
I'm
when we talk
pretty
about
proud
Cat,
of us
like,
right now.
break down.
I think we're all coming together here in unison, just hating on Embiid. I think this is a great spot for us to end here. We're uniting fan bases with a common goal of hating on Joel Embiid. So this is the perfect place for us here. Alex, excited for this season, man. We'll probably have to check in with you again later in the season because these are going to be two teams going back and forth all season here, man. Just in case any of our Celtics listeners out there want to check in on the Knicks, can you just give them a quick
secret Knicks fans
of,
like me?
Yeah, secret Knicks fans like Greg that just don't want to admit it. Let them know what you guys are doing over at Knicks Fan TV, which if you guys don't know is one of the best podcasts out there. So Alex, just let them know where you at.
Well, Greg, thank you guys for having me on, man. Long overdue. I'm glad we got to chop it up, man. Got to bring you over to KFTV at some point so that way we can all talk basketball and Knicks Celtics over there. But yeah, look, we're part of the Blue Wire Network, man. We're family at this point, right? So shout out to you guys for doing a great job over here. And yeah, if you want to come check out some Knicks content, go over to youtube.com/KnicksFanTV. We're covering the Knicks 24/7, baby. We're like a 24/7 news outlet, post-game, pre-game, play-by-play. We got special guests. We got Knicks Weekly. We do everything on that side. We also have got a newsletter that's dropping pretty soon. So you can go over there, catch some written articles, promotions, and stuff of that nature if you want to stay tapped in to what's happening over in Knicks Nation. So make sure to go check out Knicks Fan TV. You can just Google it, man. Just Google. Do your Googles, man. You'll find everything you need to do. Will, Greg, appreciate you guys for having me on, guys. Great talking with you.
Absolutely. Greg, any final thoughts before we send it over to some Black Sheep Optimists here and wrap this one up?
I was going to go into a Yankees tangent, but fuck the Yankees.
Oh, my God.
That's a good way to end it. Alex, appreciate your time,
Lord.
man. Celtics fans, we'll catch you guys later. Peace.
This free throw, Ford for the rebound. Here's Pritchard. He loves these. Puts it up half court of the buzzer.
Every time I get this high, I lose my mind. It don't take much no more until I hit the floor. Every time I get this high, it's you I find. It don't take much no more until I'm at your door.
I'm coming to my core, baby. What can I say? You got me on the floor, you know I came to play. I know I shouldn't, but you seem to take my pain away. And every time I score, Jason Tatum fade away. I close my eyes and I'm floating your river. I call to see if you open, you know I hope you deliver. Every time you're getting close, I still be sick with the shivers. But there's nothing like that first time. I still remember the first time I saw you. You were looking so fine, chill like lo-fi.